2, 3, 4. Dylan Butler, MLSsoccer.com. First and foremost, sir, the two questions we always like to start with. What's the mug? What's the mug today? Is it Arsenal celebrating Mesut Ozil?
No.
It is the blessed mug.
Blessed, yeah.
Blessed mug. And how was the high school experience?
Good. Actually, I got to check a pretty cool box off on this past Saturday. I did Penn State Marquette men's lacrosse.
Oh, there you go.
They played at one of our local high schools, at MacArthur High School in Levittown. So at the time, Penn State was ranked number 5 in the country. So it was cool, and I know probably a lot of folks don't care about this. I know you do, but it was super cool to have so much support for the broadcast, coming from SIDs and the coaches were great, and you had stats and headshots and minor things that were what people might think are minor things right at the ready, instead of like, hey coach, can you go and take headshots after practice today, and do you have your stats from last year, or super cool experience. We had a 3-man booth. Rob Pennell, for people who know lacrosse, one of the greatest lacrosse players of all time, was on the call. He's a Long Island guy, so he's with me for a few different broadcasts during the lacrosse season. So overall, a really cool experience. Got a lot of good reviews, so happy to have done that for sure.
Very, very cool. Is it archived anywhere? So if folks want to, for lacrosse-ian,
yeah, for sure. It's on the Varsity Media YouTube channel, so you could just click onto that, and additional broadcasts are there as well. We have a big one tomorrow. I've actually got lacrosse broadcast Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So, but I do have all my calls done for those.
Okay.
One of my 6 charts, but actually one of my 5, because one is the same team I'm seeing, so that's good. but yeah, all those games we have Chaminade St. Anthony's tomorrow. Rob and I are on the call for that. 2 of the top, I think, 10 teams in the country. So
nice. So
yeah,
Varsity Media on YouTube to catch up with Dylan when he's not hanging out here and getting asked questions about the sport of soccer.
Correct.
Obviously, we're heading into the international window, and folks are going to be missing matches this week. Let's go back to last week. And what I like to do is, with a lot of our guests, I'll play red light, yellow light, green light. So red light meaning, someone's in.
What happens if you speed through the yellow light?
Okay, well, then it's kind of orange. And so if you got somebody with an orange light, then that's perfectly fine, too, as long as there aren't any cops hanging out at the intersection thinking that you went through the window.
Bad habit. I have to break that.
Right there with you, because I don't want my brakes to go bad. I don't want to have to test my brake, have them prematurely grind to it being swapped out. So I'm right there with you. Red light meaning folks are in danger.
Mm-hmm.
Yellow light meaning there's kind of caution involving a particular franchise. There's folks got some warning lights going on. Green light means everything's cool and full steam ahead. You go through the intersection and everything's fantastic. So if I was to sit here and go red light, who is in serious trouble right now after the first handful of match windows here in Major League Soccer? We've hit 10% of the window. So after 10% of the season, who is in your red light category?
I think right now it's got to be Colorado. With, I think, how much can you gather from 4 results? Like an SKC's played 3 games on the road, and they've been a bit unfortunate. They should get some players back. But Colorado just lost their best player. And they're notorious for not really spending. And you don't know how much these guys that you just got in the last window are going to, do they fill the void left by Price? I don't think so. I don't know. I'm doubtful of that. So for me, that's they're in that that red light right now. I think because they've not gotten results and they've lost their best player for their season. So it's compounded for Colorado for sure.
All right, so then yellow light, 12% done. Thank you, Michael. When it comes to yellow light, who's in your caution zone right now? And you can have somebody blowing through the intersection, heading toward, trying to avoid the red light. But who right now is in your caution right now? Anybody you sit there and you're like, things are trending in that direction that not necessarily good for them. While you've got Colorado, yeah, they're in trouble. Is there anybody trending that way, like an Austin maybe?
Yeah, I was gonna say Austin for sure. Toronto just got a good result, but I don't think they're out of the, they're not green light yet. So they're a concern. I don't think Montreal is yellow, even though they picked up a pretty wacky win against Philly. Yeah, I think Austin's a great shout for that. And I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to say new to the yellow light is Miami.
Okay.
Because of their injury as well, and they, since they've lost 2 in a row now, right? Since starting off red hot. So, right, New York City and Toronto, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, yeah, I would say they're in that mix as well.
Green light. Who's like blowing through all of the intersections and not having to worry about anything timed at 33 miles an hour? Who right now has just got all the green lights heading down the Roosevelt?
Now, is there a step ahead of this, or is this like the one?
Well, you can divide it up however you want.
I mean, for sure. I mean, full. If it's green light, let's go. Everybody, it's humming. Obviously, it's St. Louis. It's LAFC. I still think Seattle's pretty green light. I'd even put Philly in that mix. Like I'm not so concerned about that crazy poop show situation that they've been in.
The ish show that was there.
By the way, I was on that press conference. I was on the Zoom call, and I was writing that piece for MLS Soccer, and then as soon as that quote came in, I'm like, gold. Mm-hmm. Like we're good. Like I think we have a story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they're in that mix too. And I think I would also put, I don't know, like almost in between color, like maybe speeding through the yellow, going to green. I think an NYCFC is getting there, right? I mean, they're still finding themselves. Reportedly, they're getting Richie Ledesma as well on loan from PSV. So a team that didn't look anything like itself to start the season. It's taking a little bit of time, but obviously the window's still open. So I think they're with Sands back and with Santi back. I think they're starting to look more like a dangerous NYCFC team.
Where would you have Atlanta United?
Yeah, you know what? They're I want to see the folks are probably going to hate me for this. I want to see a little bit. I want to see a little bit more. They're also speeding through the yellow.
Okay.
But I'm not 100% sold just yet to say that they're green. However, Almada is like he's got like the NASCAR helmet on, and like he's like there's not a speed limit on the road that he's driving. Like it's the Autobahn. Like it's amazing what he's done, and I feel. I was thinking about this before jumping on. I'm like, it's got to, and you guys have probably talked about it ad nauseum, but like, you go back and like, Miggy was was like amazing, right? Like right off the bat, Miggy and Joseph, like what an incredible combination. And obviously they lead Atlanta to the greatest of heights. And since then, like you give Atlanta credit for obviously the willingness to spend and go out and try to get these guys. but there's been big swings. Like I'm dating myself here, but like Dave Winfield-esque swings for the fences, right? Remember how he had such a huge wild swing,
Mhm.
and misses, right? On paper they look great with Barco, with PT, but now it's like it feels like you're back to that home run of Almada, and to kind of again make that Almiron connection, likely now going to, he's likely going to break that transfer record that Miggy set when he went to Newcastle. So
I know. And you brought in Yorgos Giacomakis from Celtic to be that force up top as
yeah,
well. And so once again, you're taking big swings. Player wanted to come to Major League Soccer with Giacomakis. He didn't want to go play in the J League. Specifically, wanted to test himself in Major League Soccer. And so you get those unicorns that come through Major League Soccer, regardless of where they are. But since we're talking about Atlanta, Miguel Almiron, unicorn. Thiago Almada coming back from the World Cup, confidence level off the charts, unicorn.
yeah.
And it seems like that when you stare at Thiago Almada, and folks are staring, and they're staring in a polite way. It's like they're not like kind of looking and then they look away when you sit there and you kind of feel like you're getting stared at. The folks are sitting there and they're doing the full stare, and Thiago's just kind of like, yeah, okay, it's cool, you can stare. I know what's going on. But
Well, it's and listen, I think and they've gotten there's been plenty of knives thrown at Atlanta for the misses that they've made. But again, I think I'm always of the opinion, like, go for it, right?
Mhm.
Like if it doesn't, like, I I don't know if did you watch, I'm a big fan of the movie Tin Cup.
Yes.
And remember he kept going for the green and he kept missing it, right? And he's like, another one. He's like, we only have one ball left. You can't get it wet. Like,
Romeo's like, it's the last ball, Holmes.
I love that movie.
Yeah. So, and there's
But
nothing
they
there's
go for
nothing
it. Like
wrong.
they like, I'd rather a team try to spend big money and try to get young talent, and maybe you miss occasionally, but at least you're trying, right? I
Mm.
hate the organizations that are like, we don't want to spend the money, or we can't, uh, I'd rather the big money spend and miss than the cheapskates in the league.
No doubt. So then let me ask you this. If Atlanta United is Roy McAvoy,
I think they're better. I mean, they've been the Roy McAvoy story. Obviously, is like there's not a lot of success, other than that one fleeting moment when he knocks it on and he gets the incredible shot, right? But like Atlanta's obviously won, championships,
right.
so it's
Yeah.
not
I mean,
quite a Roy McAvoy, but
true, but they'll remember you're 12. I mean, they'll remember that. So then if we take this analogy down the road a little bit, let me ask you this. So in the context of the conversation, we've got, Roy McAvoy and Atlanta United, even though it's a little different where he just keeps going for it and going for it and going for it. But they'll remember you're 12. Who's who in Major League Soccer is David Sims? Who is the Don Johnson character
they
that
play it safe
that
and
just plays it safe, does their thing, and ends up winning in the end? It's like, yeah, okay, you did great, fantastic, good for you. Who's David Sims? Who's the one that will take the bet literally and hit the longest drive, and he'll hit it down the road, and it'll win the bet because of the ground rules of the bet. Who's David Sims in Major League Soccer then?
that's a good question.
Who plays it safe and is still successful?
It depends on the definition of successful, right? I think I don't. I think the Red Bulls don't spend money, right? I mean, they've just spent a little bit, at least on Dante, but they've traditionally not spent the money, and they make the playoffs every year. Like if that's your level of success,
Mm-hmm.
they don't win the playoffs, but that's another story. They've won Supporter Shields though, with not spending a lot. So maybe Red Bulls, I guess, right? Maybe they play it safe a little bit in that sense. I don't know. The Revs come to mind as well. They win a Supporter Shield without spending a lot of money, but they do have Heel and Bo, and they had Buxa as well. So Columbus spent money on Cucho. I think the teams that win at least spends. It seems like they spend some money. No, like
Yeah.
I feel like it's like Colorado maybe is that again that definition because they finished top of the West a couple years ago.
Right.
So if that's your definition of success, but again they got bounced out of the playoffs. I think at first asking that year. So maybe Red Bulls come to mind. I think in that. Like Real Salt Lake is another team that really doesn't spend or they play it safe in
Right.
that sense. Yeah, I think those are the ones. Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned St. Louis, so let me get into St. Louis here, and we'll get into some of your red lights and VAR with Montreal and Philly. Dylan Butler, MLSsoccer.com, OSDB Sports, hanging out with us on Wednesdays with Dylan when Dylan is not hip deep in trying to get his boards ready for lacrosse and sports across the board at Varsity Media.
Yeah.
St. Louis out of the blocks at 4-0. The analogy that I have used with St. Louis, they're like the kid that gets called up from AAA who is hitting like, 360. He comes up to the majors. First tour through the majors, they don't have book on him. And so first tour through, he's hitting 325. Everybody's thinking rookie of the year. He's doing great, making great catches, at his position. I want to wait to see St. Louis's second tour or get past the quarter pole, give them another handful of matches, get into the summer and see how St. Louis City SC responds. I feel like that's in caps. You always have to say it in caps. So I'm looking at St. Louis and I'm going, great what you've done so far. I want to see what goes on in the summer. I want to see what goes on second time through the league, second half of the season, specifically in the Western Conference when opponents start to get book on you and see how Red Bullsian you are with Bradley Carnell and Lutz Pfannenstiel. I did not think that I would have, Strauss and Lewin being compared to Vela and Rossi with engagement over the first handful of matches. But your takeaways, and also when you have defensive errors of biblical proportions and Jared Strauss calling to Kip Keller, and you have that kind of a moment too. So what have been your thoughts as we go through the first four matches about St. Louis City SC?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying is 100% fair, and I think everyone is romanticizing, the unknown rookie, like you're saying, kind of coming up from AAA and hitting doubles, and just ripping through the league a little bit. However, the fact that they've accumulated so many points early on, I think they set themselves up all right. Like if they, I feel as confident as maybe you can in MLS that unless there's some, horrible streak the other way around, like I think you can almost pencil them in right now for a playoff spot, right? I mean, they got maximum points from 4 matches. What's going to be the number this year to get you in, right? 42, 3, something along those lines, right? Especially with the added teams. So I think
the play-in round at 8-9.
Right. Yeah. So, like the fact that they come out of the gate and do what they've done, if they have a 2-game losing streak, or if they don't if they don't win in 4, but they get like 2 points out of those, like they're still pretty good. So I'm not buying the stock of them being the greatest team ever, but they're certainly off to the best start ever. And I think you got to respect that. It's not been a cupcake schedule for them, right? They've had to go to tough venues, and when they've had to battle back from behind. But they've scored goals, right? And they got their first clean sheet this week. They're feeling confident. They do have some good tests coming up, right? They've got, I think, they're going to Seattle. I forgot who they have this week. I had to look that up, but I think Seattle's on the horizon, and that'd be a great litmus test for them right there, right? So, I'm not as maybe cynical. I don't know. Is that the right word for you? I don't know. Are you cynical of them?
I'm they go to Rio Tinto this week.
Okay.
So, and that's a traditionally very tough place to play.
Yep.
I mean, like I said, it's great that you jumped off to the start that you did, but like I said, I'm waiting for the summer in St. Louis, especially with this style of play. That it is a very, I mean, Red Bulls at RBA is one thing, but this style of play in St. Louis in that summer that traditionally you have in St. Louis, I worry about depth. I worry about players withering in that heat with that style of play. I don't know if it's sustainable, especially when you get into the summer months and you get into depth and things like that. And also those kinds of things for St. Louis are flags for me. And that's why, for me, I would sit there and it's like, you've had a great start, but I got all this stuff coming. I want to see how you respond to that. I'm looking at June and July specifically and seeing how St. Louis City responds to being on the road, to playing at home and all those things.
Yeah, but I also think they, they've poo-pooed a little bit the idea of that other DP, but they still have that at their disposal too, right? So, they can make a move in the summer and really ratchet things up as well. No, I hear you with that, right? Like it's hard to go 100 miles an hour in 100-degree heat, right? So we'll see how that works for them. But I'm more on the glass half full on them. But I'm not saying it's a glass of champagne just yet, right? Like I'm not celebrating anything for them to this point. Great start. Kudos to you guys. I will raise my mug for you, but yeah, but I'm more optimistic at this point, I think, than you are.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of folks are, especially in St. Louis, are hoping that Budweiser just isn't hanging out on the street and it's not in a cooler come June and July. You mentioned Austin, and you've got teams coming out of CONCACAF Champions League. And I know that Derek Etienne Jr. has said after the match this past weekend with Portland that a lot of folks kind of were looking at Haitian football and poo-pooing it. And Violette comes in, gets the result against Austin FC in the DR at Estadio Cibao. Then they hang on with everything that they had to go through. You got the teams that have exited CONCACAF Champions League. They haven't responded well so far coming out of that funk. How much concern do you have with the
even the teams that won too, though, right? Like they haven't. I think we saw teams emerge from midweek Champions League, and I don't think any of them won, right? Even LAFC. I thought it was a good point for them on the road at Seattle, but they also didn't win. So I think everybody who played midweek Champions League did not get a win this week, and it speaks to everything that you either love or hate about the CCL, right? The travel and the dodgy pitches and the dogs running on the pitch and the officiating. Yeah, but you're right. Like, so how long does that hangover last, right? Like how long, Orlando was so close and they were so frustrated, but they also didn't have a great result on the weekend. So like, does that carry over to the next weekend of matches? Same is true of Austin. So, those are the two that I'm looking at mostly. Obviously, a higher level of concern right now for Austin than Orlando, but
Yeah.
yeah, look, even like you said, Philly goes up to Montreal, and they don't get the result that they hope for, even though for a while it looked like they would.
All right, so let's talk Philly. Since you mentioned Philly, we'll go there. And Victor Wanyama, hero for CF Montreal, soon to be Impact, probably, hopefully, maybe never at this point. But yeah, Victor Wanyama goes and reminds the fourth, hey, go check VAR, and you find out that Victor Wanyama was right, but it leads to the larger issues that were associated with things. It's like VAR saw one thing. Victor Wanyama was like, yo, dog, hang out for a second. Go take another look because of this.
Yeah, our bench has this. Yeah.
Yeah, our bench has this. So what does this say, I guess, A, about VAR, and then B, about player influence in situations like that?
I don't know what happened with that first review, because we're told that the review happens because you're looking at all these different angles, right? Like, I don't know why something was broken on that first look. Like, it shouldn't have had to go to a second look. That said, ultimately you got the correct decision.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's what we want video review for, right? Like, there could be frustration over how long it takes, and sometimes you're not knowing what they're looking at, and it's so much easier to ish VAR, right?
Yeah.
But in this situation, it actually worked. Now, granted, it went to some record level of reviews, which it shouldn't have. But ultimately, yes, the player, was on. Wagner kept the play onside. It's a good goal, and that's what it should have been. And I think it would have been so much worse had they not gone to that second review, right? And imagine that situation, right? Like, you do a screenshot of something that Montreal kind of leaks out, and you could see Wagner there, and VAR didn't pick it up.
Oh. So then I guess the question is, how much of an ish show is VAR/officiating since you listened to the press conference and you listened to Jim Curtin talk about the ish show and how it's bad for the league, even if you eventually get the call right. Is it bad for the league if you eventually get the call right, even though the manner that you got the call right was unorthodox as all hell and having a player influencing the fourth to go take a second look?
Yeah, I mean, you never want to have two reviews. So in that sense, he's right. It's a bad look, but I think it's very much it's an isolated situation, because we haven't had two reviews, right? Like, this itself, yes, was a little bit of an issue, but also a reminder here that leveled the match.
Mm-hmm.
You still conceded the
the
goal. Like, there's still another goal to be scored, and your guy got beat at the 6 for a powerful header by Kyoto. So, as much as you want to complain about the looks to the league, I mean, you were still coming away with a point at that point. So,
yes, no doubt.
Maybe be more concerned about maybe how that affected your team in a bad way to concede the last.
Mm-hmm.
That was more ish than I think the VAR was.
Absolutely true. We've got U.S. Open Cup today and tomorrow. We've got Grenada. You've got USA and Grenada on Friday. Matches this weekend. I'm kind of buzzing through them real quick. You have, and since we mentioned Champions League, Philadelphia hosting Orlando. The purple team goes on the road to Subaru with absences. Colorado goes to Austin to play at Q2. Houston hosting NYCFC. Kansas City, Seattle at Children's Mercy on Saturday night. Nashville and Cincinnati. Salt Lake and St. Louis, LAFC Dallas, San Jose and Toronto. What's your viewing habits for the remainder of the week?
Good question. I think with so many with the start times where they are, it's a not trying to be a cop out answer, but I'm watching the whip around. I'm gonna sit there, which I think they've improved. They've gone more. We talked about it, right? Like about not going to calls and just getting the studio. I think they've done a better job of that.
Yes.
We saw a terrific goal by Sasha Kleshin as well. Did you see that, by the way?
No, I did not. What happened?
Yeah, he was explaining. He was demonstrating the Almada goal.
Oh, okay.
And where he was in the studio was closer to the camera, and there was a little like door on the side there for you to get through. And there was some concern over how he would hit it, but he hit it like perfectly. He got it right through the door. Very small window for him to go through. So credit to Sasha on that one. But that was fun too. But yeah, I think I'll do that because there's not one. Like, it's funny. Last week I was like Seattle LAFC, like that's the one for me. I know, but you know what?
Goalless
I
draw.
like the bite in it. Like there was, like it was played with, I felt like a playoff type intensity. Like you didn't want it to be 0-0, obviously.
Yeah.
But like, Aaron Long kind of taking a few extra shots at Fry, and then like a little bit of a dust up and handbags. Like it's good. It's good. Like you're looking forward now, I think, to that second matchup. Which will be a lot of fun at the
BMO
at the new bank.
No kidding. At
An additional bank, yes.
At the Bank of the West. Dylan, as always, my friend, enjoy your blessed mug, and thanks for hanging out with us once again. We'll catch up with you. Varsity Media is where you can catch him doing lacrosse over the next couple of days, and you've got your boards together. 3 matchups. Salud, my friend. We'll catch up with you next week.
All right, bud.